Hi folks, this is Danny at Bradley James Classics, and today's classic is a rather nice example of the MG Magnette from 1956. Now, this particular car, I think, looks very wonderful in its original shade of island green. Now, it's island like an island with palm trees and not island as in the land of Shamrock. It has an interesting history. The local owner is a car enthusiast. He's owned this car since 2019, so 5 years of ownership. He's actually been successfully using this as a wedding car, so it's had its fair share of blushing brides in the back, and as you can imagine, wedding cars need to be reliable, so this one has been maintained to a very good standard. And having just had a little drive in this car, I can confirm that the car is a lovely driving example of the ever popular MG. Now, those in the know will know that there are a few different versions of the Magnette. The car started life called a ZA model, and I believe it was 1953 when this one first this model first appeared on the road. It went through to 1958 in this shape, which is very Wolseley 1444, but virtually every panel is different. It was a unique car for MG, so out of Abingdon. This was the first monocoque car that they ever built, using a B series engine from BMC. Now, what made these cars a bit tasty back in the day was the fact that 64 brake horsepower from the ZB, slightly more than the ZA, and that was achieved mainly reworking the manifold design and fitting 2 1.5 SU carburetors rather than 1.25 inch. Performance was up at I think these guys would do about sort of 78 miles an hour, which is high performance back in the mid 1950s. In fact, I think I'm right in saying that the Magnette back then was actually, for its engine size, I think it was probably the fastest production saloon car of its era. So it would be like buying the BMW M3 of today. Now, there aren't many bad angles, I've got to say, and especially this colour. The car does look extremely nice in this lovely original shade. Now, I do have a list here of work that's been carried out and things that have been improved, but before we start on the mechanical side, I'm going to walk around and show you just how nice this car is. In that, let's have a little look at things like panel gaps. I mean, as you can see, that nice consistent one there, and certainly the junction between the wing and the bonnet, and the way the bonnet fits itself, and those rather huge bonnet on these cars. Let's show you all round, because this is something my customers are always asking me about, and as you can see, that's rather lovely. Now, the car was discovered in a London garage, and it was bought by a gentleman who I think was doing some work on the house. He took this car on, and it was treated to a coat of cellulose paint a number of years ago, and the fact that it's all the same colour and it seems to have stood up rather well is a good show of decent paintwork at the time. I'm going to walk around the car really slowly, and I'm going to do what you would probably do if you were here inspecting the car live. I'll try and focus on any imperfections, because as you can imagine, a car which is you know, sort of pushing 70, if not already, no, not quite, 68 years old, there are going to be a few imperfections, but I can tell you this car does present very nicely. But we're going to start on the bodywork panels first, and as you can see, this front wing's very nice. And if I get in very closely here, you can see there's a little imperfection, but I am zooming in for that. You have to zoom in to see it. Otherwise, this wing is looking very nice. And as I go down to the bottom of the wing, you can just see a little imperfection there, a little here. And then this door, I've got to say, is very good, especially the bottom of the door, as is the seals. And again, I'm kind of zooming in a lot more than I think the average chap would want to have a look around your car. Very good all around the roof. On this rear panel here, again, if I get in very closely here, I've got some bubbles which haven't punctured through, but I think it's all good and honest. I can tell you, I'll just have a little look inside there. If you can imagine, the whole of the car is undersealed like that. And I know it's had floor pans fitted, so you don't have to worry about those. This rear wing is in very good order. I know the front and back bumper are new, as is this rear number plate light stroke lock mechanism. That's all new as well, all metal. Very nice trim all around the rear window. Always good to see a good wood badge. I get in close here, tiny little imperfection of the paint in the area of the lights. So actually, when we're talking about lights, you'll notice there's indicators fitted, because of course at this era cars had trafficators. This one's been converted for indicators, which I think in this day and age, despite not all the lovely retro features, they're probably safer. People look for indicators, they don't even know what trafficators are. And for those who don't, here's one here tucked away. I'm not going to pull it and break it, but of course originally you would have had one of these flags pop out and show an amber colour. Back to the bodywork. I think that's pretty respectable, that rear wing and this door and seal. Very nice through the seal. And very nice through this door. I've got a bit of, I think, a bit of patina here on this door handle, but again, I'm getting in very close, but very honest. And again, on this chrome stripe, which again is a feature of a ZB. A ZA would have had a curve here going down the wing. And getting down very close here, again, you can see a little bit of imperfection at the bottom of that wing, but again, I'm being fussy. The wheels are all nicely painted. It looks like all the brake drums have been painted red, and then the chrome is excellent on the hubcaps all round. I'm now going round to the front of the car, the other corner. Again, if I get in very closely here, I can see a little bit of paintwork imperfection just at that area. This is all correct. These overriders have these little mounts for the bumpers, and that, I can tell you, they've got halogen headlamp bulbs in there, and there's an alternator fitted. So it's been converted to negative earth rather than positive earth, which was original, and it looks to have retained the original number plate, which is rather nice. A lot of cars had their number plates pinched off them because of their value. This one appears to have kept it. And the chrome on this front bumper and the condition of the fins is very good as well. And as I step back, you can see that the car, despite me going around and looking at it very, very closely, it does present very nicely as I walk round. A good set of quality tyres, a stainless steel exhaust system all the way through, got a very good exhaust note. It's had an MOT in recent times, and it passed without any advisories, which is, I think, particularly good considering MOTing a 68-year-old car. Now, I have got a little list here of jobs that have been carried out, and I'm just going to run through that with you now. So I can tell you that I have checked the chassis number, and I have checked the engine number. It shows the original engine fitted with 102,000 miles on it. And I've also checked out the chassis number, and the chassis number does in fact confirm it is a ZB model, because being a 1956, it was a bit of a changeover year, and there were some hybrid models around 1956, which means it could have been a ZA or a ZB, or it could have had features of both. However, this is a ZB. Now, a lot of people think a ZB has to have a wraparound wheel rear windscreen. That's if it were a Veritone model, which I think was about £25 optional extra back in the mid-50s to have often two-tone paintwork and a wraparound screen. That's not this model. It's had new wiring harness. It's had an offside and near side floor panel. It's had a offside outer sill. It's had offside inner sill front wheel bearings, a pair of headlamp bowls, front brake shoes, a clutch and brake cylinder repair kits, two coil spring base plates. It's got a laminated screen, a new headlining kit, two new front shock absorbers, two new rear shock absorbers, two new front coil springs, a new electric fuel pump, and a alternator conversion with the negative earth that I mentioned earlier. So if you were payrolling that little lot, it appeared to have had quite a lot of money spent on it, but as I mentioned earlier, wedding cars do need to be reliable, but they also need to be very nice inside, and I think this is where this particular car scores another top mark. We've got a really interesting combination of this island green on the outside. It looks to have been totally fitted out with new carpets, but also these rather smart seat covers, which wouldn't look out of place in a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. You know, it's quite a posh conversion here. It's dark green, almost like a British racing green, and then white or an ivory. You've got a rear rest, which you can imagine would look lovely in the back of a wedding car. Someone's done a beautiful job of retrimming these seats, and there's all these studs in the back. Of course, of that era, an ashtray. Very good door cards in excellent condition, and one of the features of the upgraded ZB was all the additional wood. Very early cars, the ZA, when they first came out, very early cars, they had a metal dash in them actually, but just let me show you how good the wood is in this particular car. It really is in stunning condition. It really does look beautiful. No radio. You've got a parcel shelf, which is a feature of this particular car, and that's nicely clad in with a bit of wood. This beautiful dished steering wheel. The clock up here, sadly, that doesn't appear to work, but that's where it should be. The headlining is retrimmed and it looks excellent. And you can see, even around the rear screen, you can see some wood round there. This is an original feature. But as I say, with all these carpets fitted and this rather lovely interior, this is one of the nicest ones I've been inside, I've got to say. Now, I think I told you about the conversion for the indicators. They work here, and that's the horn. A lovely dashboard. A real bonus is to see the wood, as I say, in such lovely condition here. Yeah, this is a real credit to the owner, and super rock solid inside. And also, if I just show you the driver's side door and card from the inside, you can see just how lovely this is. This is a huge steering wheel, and it feels great. Now, these cars were, as I mentioned earlier, the sporty saloons of the era. Now, that's the noise of me opening the bonnet. So with a live rear axle and independent suspension, shock absorbers. In fact, it had better handling capabilities than probably the sports cars from the MG range of that era, and I think that's why they were always a real driver's car. There's some great stories of motorsport success using these cars in that early period as well. Now I'm going to try and open the bonnet for you. It's not too bad to do with one hand, but that gets lifted up like so. And then what we do is just pull out this bar, and then we drop it down here. Sorry about that, folks, but I was keen to show you the engine bay. People always ask about the engine bays. That's the alternator conversion. It hasn't long had an oil change with filter. And I can show you now that the engine is all painted nicely. The inner wings are all in super condition, if you can see that. There's those twin 1.5-inch carbs. It's nice to see the proper air filter in use. Quite often you would see people would put pancake filters onto the back of these. But if you can just have a look inside and see how totally presentable and lovely, without it being in show condition, concourse I mean, this is a highly usable, everyday working classic, which absolutely would not look out of place at any car show in the land. Now the B series engine from BMC, always known for its reliability. The brake horsepower would have been quite high for the era, considering people were driving around in horsepower cars that were probably less than 10 back then. This would have seemed like a fire-breathing dragon in comparison. And it's very nice that all the original plates are all in good condition. There's Abingdon-on-Thames, of course, the famous address for MG. And hopefully you're picking up a nice clean engine bay. I can't see any evidence of any oil leaks or annoyances there. It all looks to be in rather lovely order. So to summarize, a 1956 Magnette ZB in Island Green. I've tried very hard with my walk around video to point out any small areas of bodywork imperfection, and there has been a few, but certainly none that detract from the overall condition the car is in. I do like to get really close in and show off these little imperfections, because I appreciate people are often looking at these cars. They may be a long way away, and if they want to come down and have a look at these cars prior to buying them, which of course we always recommend, I think it's best to be as transparent as possible and try and show you what I'm seeing. There's no reason why this car couldn't just be jumped in and within reason driven anywhere. It certainly has been kept up in tip-top condition, so it can be a wedding car and be completely reliable. And as you could imagine, it being a wedding car, it does need to look great, and it does look great. And certainly the interior with this, I'd imagine, rather expensive refit is no exception. It's particularly tidy and clean inside, and it looks great with this particular colour scheme. It's very much on the button, and I literally mean on the button, because that's exactly what you do have in these cars. It comes with a box folder of works that have been carried out, and here's the set of keys. Now the old trick is to try and look for the one that's probably most worn, because that's the one that's usually the ignition. And let's make sure she's not in gear. Turn her on, and that's the fuel pump kicking in. And let me just give that button a little press. And as you can tell, she's a car that loves to start. We're open 5.5 days a week. We're based in the North Hampshire countryside, in a village called Overton, which is quite close to Basingstoke. It's also not so far from Whitchurch on the A303, and the junction 7 at Basingstoke is the nearest motorway junction, so we're quite easy to find. There's also a railway station at Overton, so you can come and have a look at this car via the train. It does drive especially well, I can vouch for that, having just literally finished driving it. It's a local car, and I'm selling it on behalf of an enthusiast who lives in the village here in Overton, and we are able to come up with very competitive delivery quotes. There's a local gentleman who's very reliable, who's been working with us for years. He can deliver this car to you anywhere in the country at a very competitive price. There is a possibility of a part exchange. Now, because I am selling this on behalf of its owner, I'd need to just be mindful of how much of a part exchange that could be entertained, but please contact us for any details on that. The car is ready to go. I'm very happy to recommend it. Particularly like these cars, they're a bit of a personal favourite of mine because they are a modern classic in that they can keep up with modern traffic if you wanted to get onto the busier roads. And it does feel very, very good to drive. They handle very, very well. They sound great. They look wonderful. And they're a bit of a rare sight to see these Magnettes. There's never that many for sale at any one time. We've had our unfair share of them here, and I've got to say the ones we've had have always sold usually quite quickly. So without trying to strong arm you into a decision, if you did fancy a nice Magnette at a sensible price point for what it brings you, then I've got a feeling you may well like this one. Well, thank you for watching this detailed walk around video, folks. The car is available. We've only literally just put it up for sale here in Bradley James Classics in Overton. So if you are interested, please get through in the usual channels and I'll be more than happy to discuss this car with you. And if you'd like to come and see it, you'll be made very welcome. So this is Danny at Bradley James Classics signing out. Thanks for watching, folks.